one shot. You don't get to test it or practice. That's it.
Wow.
Because if you mess that up, you're done.
Yeah.
See you next year,
How hard is the American Ninja Warrior obstacles?
You quite literally show up and they give you a chance to walk through visually and see what it is, and then they put you in a little holding thing and you go do it. I wasn't actually naturally gifted at the game of football at all. I was horrible the first couple of years, to be quite honest.
Wow,
I was not
okay.
good. I love it, but I'm not good enough to keep doing it. I don't want to keep getting hit and feel this way. Everything we're experiencing becomes a superpower if we use it for good.
Everything is just spontaneous. I mean, you can prepare for real life. Same here. You're preparing and then you come in and everything is new for you.
Because if I don't see myself as being the guy that does sales, right, then I'm not going to be able to do very well in sales in my business, right? So these little pieces tie in. The first call, I wanted to throw up. Second call, it didn't go away. It took like 20 calls until I got to a groove of it. So with that same thing, you prepare the best you can, but you actually prepare for something you're unprepared for.
You just kept honking for no reason. The Avenue of the Strongest is a podcast dedicated to exploring the lives and experiences of the most inspiring individuals from around the world. Each episode features interviews with fascinating guests who share their insights and wisdom on a variety of topics, including education, impact, motivation, health, and learning. I'm your host, Anayet Chowdhury.
And Vlad Suleyman.
Today, we are thrilled to welcome Anthony Trucks, former NFL athlete, 3 times American Ninja Warrior, international speaker, host of the Awe Shift podcast, best-selling author, and the founder of Identity Shift Coaching. With a powerful story of perseverance and resilience, Anthony has overcome numerous challenges, including navigating the dark world of foster care as a child, being adopted into an all-white family at the age of 14, and enduring a career-ending injury in the NFL, and more. Today, he joins us to impart his invaluable insights on how we can all create transformative shifts in our own lives. Welcome to the show, Anthony.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Now, I did take a look at your Instagram. I saw that you were with your son yesterday, and you were showing him your name on the wall for holding the record still for the fastest 20-yard line for a linebacker. Are you at the phase? I didn't realize that because you just told me that your son is now a college freshman. So I'm assuming he's at that stage right now where he sees you as, oh my God, my dad is pretty awesome and really cool.
Yeah, I
right?
don't know yet. Well, I wish he did.
This podcast is sponsored by ArgoPrep, an award-winning edtech company serving over 1 million students nationwide. We understand that as parents, you want to ensure that your child receives the best education possible. Say hello to ArgoPrep. With over 15 plus educational awards earned in just the past year, ArgoPrep's platform offers your child video lessons, quizzes, drills, printable worksheets, and more. Best of all, your ArgoPrep subscription comes included with 4 comprehensive digital workbooks that cover all 4 subjects: math, ELA, science, and social studies. Visit ArgoPrep.com today and start your free trial.
My oldest son, he actually. So I took my youngest son up to Oregon yesterday, where I went to school. And his older brother is now going to school, but it was just my younger son. I was giving him kind of a tour. But I think they kind of slowly start to understand, but I don't think they're ever going to get it until like they enter the world and someone from the world presents me differently. Yeah, I think your kids, they get you, they know who you are, and they see you every day. And so because you're the one that punishes them and all, it's not the same allure. But then when they get to separate and go, oh, wow, like my mom or my dad, the rest of the world sees them like this. I think that's when it kind of latches on a little bit differently.
No, that's very sad, no? It's very sad when you growing up your kids, they will never appreciate it until they, as you said, go out to the world and understand it. This is...
Yeah, then they'll listen to you like, oh, man, I wish I would have paid attention more. But I see it happen a lot. I'm hoping it doesn't happen. I deal with it. My youngest son, he still battles me on stuff. That's what was good for him to see yesterday. Like, this isn't stuff I've made up. This is real. This is what it looks like. So I'm always telling him, what he has as a dream, which is to do what I did. And it's not because of me. It's his own dream. In fact, I try to get him to not have the dream, if that makes sense, to test him. But he wants it. And so I wanted him to get a really like visceral understanding of what he's talking about. He wants what it looks like, what it feels like. And so it was cool to show him that yesterday.
No, that's incredible. And it's also very heartwarming, at least for me to see that when I took a look at your story. But yeah, I think it's a very common thing where, you're never cool to your kids. They always roll their eyes at you no matter how cool you are. Because for me, Anthony, you were super, super cool. But I get it. I think most of us never appreciate what our parents do or have done, or especially in cases like your story. But I think after college, or especially when they move out, they learn very quickly to appreciate their parents significantly more. Um, so, Anthony, I want to ask you a question. So, I know you deal with a lot with identity shifting. I
Mhm.
kind of want you to clarify something for us over here. So, I think most of us understand the term shifting your mindset, but you're all
Yeah.
about identity shift or identity shifting. What exactly is an identity shift?
So if you think about who we are, how we show up every single day, we show up in a way that is, it's for the most part somewhat effortless, meaning we go through the motions, we do our day. And that way you function, that's your identity. I believe it's who you are when you're not thinking about who you are. So it's you're optimistic, pessimistic, you're happy, just life unfolds for you. That person, that identity is creating things through actions that makes your life, the job you have, the relationships you hold, how you're seen by the rest of the world. And so what I look at is go, well, if you want something different, if you look at that as being identity, you can't have a dream above your current identity. If you don't identify with the actions that create the outcome, then you don't get the outcome. And so what I've kind of found is, well, mindset's a piece of it. There's way more than just your mindset. There's a lot tucked in. There's your
Mm,
beliefs, your thoughts, there's your actions, there's how you see yourself, self-perception. All these little things matter, because if I don't see myself as being the guy that does sales, right, then I'm not going to be able to do very well in sales in my business, right? So these little pieces tie in. And so what I look at is you're always one shift away from that next thing. So it's an identity shift. Now, it's not an overhaul. It ain't gonna happen tonight. It doesn't happen overnight actually at all. But there should be things you look at and go, okay, if I got here and it's who I am today, what got me here? And it's a bunch of little things done over time. So the idea is just to shift the small little things over time to become the person who does the things that get you the thing.
no, that wow, I love that. Before I get into your past out, I have a serious question to ask you, which is how hard is the American Ninja
Uh,
Warrior obstacles? I mean, that is impressive. That
you,
is
you know,
insane. Let's
it's
talk a little bit about that.
I'm
What did
happy
that
to,
training
man.
look like?
Well, the training is you do a lot of the same stuff you see in the show, but you never know what you're going to have in the show. You quite literally show up and they give you a chance to walk through visually and see what it is. And then they put you in a little holding thing and you go do it. You only get one shot. You don't get to test it or practice. That's it.
Wow.
So the training for it is whatever you can do that's the most, I guess, just random stuff. It's the best for you. You can train grip strength and body control, but you're never going to know. What's really hard about it, it's not that it's not always physically hard. Yes, it's physically hard. After a certain point of your strength, though, you can handle it. It's tactically and finite hard. Can I place my hand in the
Mm,
right place and get the right grip when I'm a little bit tired and it's late at night and the crowd is there? Because if you mess that up, you're done. See you
yeah.
next year. So it's one of those things where if you can't handle the pressure of it, you fall, and then you have to wait the very next year to get an opportunity again.
Isn't
Yeah.
it like
And
real life? You can prepare all
Yeah,
your
very
life
similar.
in the college, and when you're in real world,
Mhm.
I mean, this is everything is just spontaneous. I mean, you can prepare for real life. Same here. You're preparing, and
Yeah.
then you come in, and everything is new for you.
That's it. Yeah, you have to. I mean, you don't have any idea what's coming, but it's like this mentality I love that, like for me at least, is I know the things I go after are going to be inevitably difficult. There's going to be some problem, but I bring me the problems because I'm a prepared person. So with that same thing, you prepare the best you can, but you actually prepare for something you're unprepared for.
Mm,
And when
yeah.
you have confidence in that, you can flow into almost anything.
I would love to talk a little bit more about your your childhood. I think you have such a powerful story over here. And for this podcast, I hope it's okay, but I personally decided to kind of take a look into your past and journey because it's such a powerful story. I know you do a lot of transformations and motivational things, and you've really helped business leaders and just individuals in general level up and really achieve their goals and dreams. But I personally, I've always been interested with the stories of people. I think everyone has such a powerful story to tell. So I would love to listen a little bit more about your background
Mhm.
from your earlier days in your childhood. What were some of the pivotal moments from your childhood?
Uh, you know, I guess it's like a ping pong ball, man. You bounce around from side to side. So those moments all led to we'll call it a big catalyst moment in some manner. But the beginning was me. I was given away at 3 years old, and so I dealt with the moment of not being in the home that I knew, like not around the person I loved the most, or being loved by the person I wanted to love me. And so you have these situations where like yeah, you really reflect upon life. And I was a young guy, 3 years old, dealt with beating, starvation, torture, some pretty crazy things in a foster care system. And then at 6 years old, landed in my current family, but wasn't adopted for 8 years. So I was still in the system dealing with hardships and my biological mom and just craziness. And so the thing is you have all these things taking place consistently, and you have an option. Option one is it all becomes a really good reason to do poorly, to be a
Yeah.
criminal, to do difficult
Yeah.
things. And in fact, if you look at prisons in America, 75% of the inmates are former foster kids like me. And so like we're set on this crazy path the moment we're given away. And then the other side of it goes, well, it's going to be a really good story, a really great reason for when I do well to be able to come on a podcast like this and talk about it. I thankfully chose the latter, and I wouldn't say it happened intentionally. I think it happened accidentally, which was I tried something, and it was football. I love the game of football. I wasn't good at it though. Like it's interesting when we try something new, we notice pretty quickly we're not very good at it, and
Yeah.
we have a choice: do I lean in or lean out? Most lean out, make good excuses as to why I'm not doing it, but I chose to lean in. And so the more I leaned in, the more I took actions. I developed a different sense of who I was, that identity portion. And the more I did it, the better I felt. And then it became more of like this stepping stone instead of a drowning stone, like a sinking stone, we'll call it. And so I got to step on that stone to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And the more I did that, the better I became as a human, the more joyous I felt, and honestly, the more gratitude that I have for life, because I know
Mhm.
where I could be. And so
Yeah.
because of me knowing where I could be, any place I am is great.
If you can give some advice, from your heart to other foster children right there, right now. I mean, now we live in an amazing
Mhm.
age where everyone has a mobile devices and they're still scrolling TikTok. Uh, if they're listening to this right now, what would you tell them? What can you tell
Oh
them?
man, when I grew up, I had this thought that I was like the odd man out. I was ashamed. I was like, I'm this foster kid. I don't belong with these rest of these. I'm not good like them, and so I want to keep it a
Mm,
secret. God forbid somebody was a foster kid. And then as I grew up and I went through the hardships of life, and I got to the point of being an adult, navigating things, I can handle so much more than the average human emotionally. And let's be honest, life is a lot of situations that create an emotional stir from us in some manner. And so I had all these different things take place. And I go, you know what? I'm looking at these people and I'm able to navigate this better than most. Not quite sure
mm.
why. And what it was, I went back and I go, oh, because I've dealt with crazy. I've navigated the emotions of this. There's a painting I have on my wall back here, and it says, "Smooth seas never made skilled sailors."
Mm. Yeah.
And I love the saying of it because I look at my life and I go, man, the foster kids out there, everything we're experiencing becomes a superpower if we use it for good. It could be an amazing superpower, but you can also use it for bad. But we have these skill sets. To be honest, like the fact that I can look at people and get a good read of them pretty quickly. I had to learn that as a kid for safety purposes. Like, is this person going to
Yeah.
hit me, beat me? Like, I didn't know it back then, but I was developing these skills, the gift of gab. Like, if I was going to get something, I had to go get it. So I had to learn to
Right.
communicate, to talk, and to be in some aspects manipulative. Not in a
Yeah.
sense to be mean, but a 7-year-old can only be so manipulative when they're trying to get food. So these little situations took place, and the more that I look back at my life in those windows, I realize I was developing some crazy cool skill sets that if I use for good, I can outdo the people who I looked at and envied.
Wow.
Exactly. When I was preparing for the interview, I was looking at your story,
Mm,
and there was one interview you was giving and telling story about your childhood, how your mom was giving up you, and I almost cried. I had the goosebumps all over my body. So I want to actually speak about the age of 14. So
mm.
when you first experienced unconditional love from your adopted mother.
Yeah.
So how did this profoundly impact your life and shape you as a person right now?
Oh man, big time. So up to 14, I guess there was a weird window where at 14 I finally woke up and understood who my real mom was, my biological mom. Because as kids in foster care, all we want to do is go home, right? So you hold your mom and your dad up on a pedestal, and they're this amazing person, even though if you were to see it as an adult, they're not that great of humans, but you don't know that as a kid. And
Right.
so because of that, I didn't let anybody else love me. So I was a very unloved human, right? My person I wanted to love me didn't. The people who wanted to love me were loving me. I wouldn't let them. And so I just kind of sat there. And it wasn't until I got this realization of like this woman who I want to love me isn't going to, and the people who are trying to, if I'd let them, it might be different. And it was really a situation where my biological mom, she used to do this thing where she'd call me. She'd miss visitations, so I would barely see her. But every single time she'd miss one, she would tell me, "Hey, pack a bag." She'd call me, "Pack a bag, go by the window at 8 o'clock. I'm gonna pick you up." So I'd be a little kid with a packed bag sitting there waiting for her to, come pick me up. And then she never would. And I would cry myself to sleep. And every night I'd wet the bed. And when I wet the bed, the woman who was my foster mom, who I all the time not like, wanted to let in, like she would always come and be gracious and like she cared. She'd be there with me. She didn't make me feel bad for, what was going on. Like her heart was in it. And so it was this, I don't know if it was like a moment or like I woke up at 14 and I go, holy, what am I doing? And so I made this decision of like, I want to be loved by this woman, by this family. And so that process led me on a journey of going to court, looking my biological mom in her eyes on a pew, looking down from the judge's area, and said, I no longer want this woman to be my mom anymore. And it severed her parental rights and allowed me to get adopted. And so that was the moment where I was able to open up my life to go and see and do and be so much more. Because prior to that, my adoptive mom, she had what's called parental rights. She could control what I couldn't do, even though I didn't live with her. So these rights being removed, it opened up the opportunity for football, for traveling, for so many just parts of life to be explored.
Wow.
Are you still in
I would
communication
love.
with your biological mom or no?
I'm not. When I had my son, my oldest son, when I was in college, she somehow got a hold of my number to my grandma or something. And the last conversation I had, she would not admit to why we were in foster care. Her excuse and her belief is that the state of California paid her boyfriend $10,000 to come and beat her up so that they could take the kids, which is very odd. The state's not giving anybody money to go beat people up. It's illegal. It's crazy. And I'm not that special at this age, right? So I'm not sure, but
Right.
she stuck to it. And at this point, I go, you want to see your grandson, but I'm your son, and I'm not a child anymore. I'm a college educated human. Like I need you to be honest with me. And if you can't be honest, you can't see him. And I said, the moment you want to tell me the truth about what took place, I am happy to have a conversation. And I was at the age of 20, age of 20 years old, and I'm almost 40. I have not heard from her since.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. That is so powerful. I want to talk about football. I want to talk about that journey, going to the NFL, getting drafted, to joining the team. What was that experience like? So obviously, let's say you are naturally gifted, right? That I think there's always two elements to the
Part
story.
of it.
Part of it, exactly. So I want you to talk about the other part, which most students fail to realize. How much effort, how much
Mm,
dedication did you have to spend training?
mm. Well, I wasn't actually naturally gifted at the game of football at all. I was horrible the first couple of years. To be quite honest, I was
Wow.
not good.
Okay.
Yeah, I started out because I started out 6 years after most of my peers. I couldn't play
Okay.
till I was 14. So it's the first year, the
Wow.
year
Yeah.
before high school was the first time I got to play football. So most of my teammates, they've been playing 4, 5, 6 years. They were great compared to me. I had some athleticism, but I wasn't, it
Hmm.
was really raw. I had no understanding of the game of football and how to play it, how things worked. And so I went out and I was horrible at the game. And there was a moment in time where I checked out. My mom had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, my adoptive mom. So the family was really focused on her health. I was, kind of checked out because I was like, I don't feel like doing this thing anymore. I've tried it 2 years. I'm bad at it. I love it, but I'm not good enough to keep doing it. I don't want to keep getting hit and feel this way. So I checked out of it. I remember I'm sitting in the classroom and these two girls are talking, and I got a really cool gift. And the gift was this girl making a statement without me knowing, or her knowing I was listening. And she says, the reason I'm so bad is because I'm in foster care. And at face value, it's just a statement. But for me, it was a gift because I got to hear my excuse out loud for playing small and how stupid it sounded. Because we all have these moments where we want to go after something, but we play a little bit smaller and we create a stupid excuse that we accept and we don't tell anybody else about it. We just live with it inside, and we don't push. We don't give the full energy, at least. And then we have a less than life. And I was doing that. I go, man, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to have this be my experience of life. And it kind of hit a switch in me that goes, I want to be great. And so this desire to be great was something that was just born of me talking to myself in the mirror saying, Anthony, you're going to be great, man. I leaned into that. And what it took was the first kind of, we'll call it, moment where I look back and realize it was identity work. But I go, okay, if I want to be great at football, what do great football players do? Because it's not how I identified. So I go, what are the actions? So the dream was above my current identity. So I go, what do I got to do to get up there? Well, I got to lift more weights, run more routes, got to get a little bit faster, right? I got to do these things that are not normally me. So I would do that. And the interesting journey is, it sounds great, like you just do these things. It's not. It's horrible most of the time. And here's why it's horrible. One, you feel like you're in somebody else's body. You're doing things you don't typically do. It feels abnormal. It's
Yeah.
awkward. It's just not. And then on top of this, people know you to be somebody. When you stop being that somebody, they let you know. So I got ridicule. I got made fun of. You get just all these weird things that take place. People misunderstood what I was doing. So I have teammates making fun of me. Trucks, man, why you out there catching footballs? You got butterfingers, bro. Like, why are you running routes? You're slow. You
Yeah.
suck, man. What are you doing, right? So you have this desire for something great, and you're moving towards it. And not only do you not feel comfortable, people are telling you shouldn't feel comfortable. And most people stop right there. And they continue to carry the dream, but they can't reach the dream because they won't become the person who has it. For me, thankfully, I didn't listen to them or myself. I just kept doing it. I would lay on my back and catch a football 500 times a day. I'd run routes. I'd lift weights. I just kept doing these things that were just little by little progressing me, not just to have better skill sets, but a better identity. So what happened was I showed up to football the next year after 7 months of doing this, and I was faster, I was a little bit stronger, I was better, but there's a mentality in me that was created. What the mentality was is I've done too much work in the dark to lose in the light. That was
Your
it.
story,
It
your
was,
story reminds me
yeah.
of a video I watched recently of you talking about uh, people when they identify their limits,
Mm-hmm.
and you made such a good point that once you identify your limit, that's all you'll ever be. I mean, that's all you've achieved. If you can only handle whatever it is, X amount that
Yeah,
I can bench press, that's it. You've already
that's it.
That's
You're
your
done.
limit.
Mhm.
So you've constantly at that age had to push out and set new limits each and every time.
Yeah, you
Is
got to
that
reach
correct?
it first. Yeah, because what happens is you have to find the limit and then choose a step forward or backwards. And most people that step
Mm,
backwards never step forward past it again until way later, because you know what that looks
mm,
like, and you went to that point before. It was scary, so you didn't do it. It's like jumping off a cliff. If you know you have to jump off a cliff to dive into some water to get to safety, right? You can run to the ledge, and if you go, "Ooh, yeah, I can't do it," and you back up, well, you never get past the ledge. And in
yeah,
fact, the thought of it scares you too, so you don't go past it. But then
that's
there's a
a
person who runs up and they jump off. And all of a sudden they find out that's just the beginning of the river. Downstream is a beautiful oasis, right? You get to see the next stages of life. But for me, yeah, it's you have to reach the limit to get past it. It's not even setting a goal as a limit, but it's like, what's
mm,
my limit where I can't move, I'm too tired physically, I can't breathe, or I can't handle it emotionally. And a lot of us go, I'm overwhelmed. Oh man, I'm overwhelmed. And I go, no, I'm maximized. At my current level, this is my max. But if I want to have more, this has to be lightweight. This has to, in some manner, be manageable. So I have to breathe, hold on, and then step forward again. It's like if you're driving a car, you got to get to 150 miles per hour, but you're scared of going over 100. Well, thought
right.
of 100 miles per hour, you stop, right? But it's a certain person that goes, okay, I got to get to 150. I'm scared, but I'm not going to hit the brake. I'm going to hit the gas. I'm going to hold the steering wheel. I'm going to get to 110. Okay, I'm at 110. It's crazy. Okay, I'm going to hold the steering wheel, put the gas on. I'm going to get to 120. And you build. And the pace of that is what is scary for people. And most people back off before they get to 130.
Well,
So they never
yeah.
make 150.
Mm,
So the limits are one of the main reasons why 90% of people giving up and you didn't, right?
Yeah, that's it. I found my max and my limits of what it was. And as opposed to checking out or walking backwards, I found a way to normalize to it to go forward. That's all it is. It's how can I push forward to normalize? Because think about it. There are things that you probably do right now that if somebody else walked in and goes, man, how do you do this? Like you'd be like, it's easy. So what you do, but to them, oh, this is crazy. This is how do you do that today? Like, it's so much
right.
work. And you go, oh, it's my typical Thursday. No big deal,
Yeah.
right? And it's all
Yeah,
because you normalize to the pace and you push forward. Most people just won't normalize. They back up to the ease. They go back to the comfort zone they know.
I see. Okay, let's speak
No.
about the. I know that you got an injury, which abruptly ended your NFL dreams, right? So, and you were
Yeah.
forced to pivot and become a personal trainer to support your family within just 2 months. So, how
Yeah.
did you navigate the roller coaster of emotions during this period? And what strategies
Oh,
help you
very
cope
poorly.
with such a dramatic life?
Yeah.
Poorly?
Very, very poorly. I'm gonna be honest, man. I wasn't in a situation where I understood how to navigate, because when you're playing professional sports, there's a structure in place. You know when you're waking up, when you're going to bed, where you're going next. It's all different. It's all dialed in and structured. When you leave professional sports or any situation like that, the structure leaves too. So now you have to find a way to navigate these situations without any teammates, any coaches, any guidance, any structure. And I didn't know what I was doing. So when I came home, I was like, I'm just going to push real hard. But you don't know that you're not doing the right things. You're working hard in the wrong direction. And so I found myself not only doing that, but also having a big sense of like, who am I without football? It's identity crisis. I didn't know who I was or what value I brought to the world without me having a helmet on and cleats on my feet. And so there was this journey of me having to go through the ups and downs. Really what it was understanding that the things that I created weren't who I was. They were things that who I was created.
So I know after the NFL, after that you decided to open up your own gym. Is that correct?
It is, yeah.
Okay, so I'd love to hear that story because I think that story is very important as well. So you've opened up the gym, and
Yeah.
that business kind of consumed your life, right?
Oh yeah, it did. Yeah.
Can,
And,
can,
and not the good way. It was a bad way.
yeah,
But yeah, well, I came home and my degree's in kinesiology. So it was kind of this natural next, order step. So I would go in that direction. I would build the gym. But the thing was, is I didn't understand what a business entailed. So I had a skill set,
mm,
but it's different of a skill set and wrap it around a business around it. And so I went in guns ablazing, do my whole thing. And then about 9 months in, I'm looking at bankruptcy, like possible, because I couldn't pay the rent, which was, due
mm,
every single month. I hadn't paid for 3 months. We had no money coming in because I didn't understand anything about business, systems, process, structure, nothing. So I'm winging it. And the winging it led me to a position where I got served by the landlord. They sent some guy in a Harley, pulls up to the front door, gives me an envelope, says, "Are you Anthony?" I say, "Yeah." He gives me an envelope. I take the envelope. He walks out. I open it. It was court papers. You have to pay
yeah,
$16,000 in 2 weeks, or you have to vacate the premises. And I go, wow, what do I do? I go home to my wife. She's like, "What are you going to do? Like, we don't have the money for this. We didn't have anything we could do towards it." And I go, "Well, I don't know." And I had a choice. The choice was I could find a way to back out, eventually file bankruptcy and navigate that whole journey, or I could fight again. And so what I
mm,
did was I had $4,000 left. I owed 16,000. We were bringing in maybe 4,000 a month anyways, and it was going out to bills, so there was no profit.
right.
And so I go, I got to figure this out. So I spent the $4,000 I had on a $6,000 coach. Still owed him the $2,000. I was like, I need you to tell me what I got to do, because I'm like, the only way you're gonna get paid is if you help me figure this out, and I can't go broke. Like I have to figure. And so we sat down and he dug in, and what it turned into was him just walking me through a couple of the things that they're so dummy simple that I'm like, why didn't I think of that or know to do it? And a lot of it was like, well, he's like, first you ask this question. He goes, well, when somebody walks into business, how are they greeted? I don't know. Well, do you give them a tour? Yeah. How do you give them the tour? I don't know. We just walk them around. He says, no structure to it? No. So say they want to buy something. What's your process to sell them something? I don't know. He's like, you have no business then. It's just you out there
Yeah.
doing your thing. He's like, I don't know how you're still in business to begin with. He's like, I don't know. It's like amazing to me. And so you just broke it down. And one of the biggest things missing was lead generation. There was no process in place for it.
Mm,
So if you have no leads, you have no business. You have no way to keep the thing alive. And so for me, that was the biggest piece. And he gave me this little process of what I do. And I took that process, and sure enough, I put it to work. And so I built through these 3 stages. It's called the ABC list. A is people you've worked with that love you. B is people that know who you are and what you do, but haven't worked with you. C is people who don't know who you are. He's like, you need to find a way to get C's, make C's B's and B's A's. And then from the A's, get more C's. So that's
I
what I
love
did.
that.
And I just built it. And then 3 months later, we had turned our revenue from maybe it was like 4,000, like $28,000 a month. Rent was taken care of. Everything was good. Like it built up. And that little window of time right there was a make or break time, not just for that gym, but for my sense of confidence, my sense of self, and my future to now. Because if I quit that business, I don't know if I open another one. I don't
Mm,
know what business I open. I might just be tucked away behind a desk somewhere and the world doesn't know me. I
right.
just, I wasn't the person that was used to giving up. I had this athletic bone in my body of like, I got to find a way to at least fight. Like if I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose swinging. So I started swinging, and sure enough, I knocked it out.
Wow. I'd love to hear a little bit more about so today what you do, right?
Mhm.
So now you've really helped leaders, business leaders, people on all industries
Yeah.
level up, find have an identity shift. I'd love to learn more about what you're currently doing.
Yeah, yeah. So my works in what took place when I was 15. I talk about that. I pretty much the mentality of I've done too much work in the dark to lose in the light. I believe that that mentality is harbored by an identity called a dominator's identity, right? I dominate the things that I pursue. You don't live in it every day. I'm not going to dominate dinner. It's not what we're talking about. It's
Right.
like, can I dominate this opposition in front of me? And when that's the mentality, you show up differently, but you have to have that fueled in some manner differently. And so, what I call dark work, it's how you optimize your identity for peak performance. So, how do I go through this process to really, I call it curate and design a very specific experience to elevate my identity? Because if you think about who we are now and how we do things, it's all born of experiences, right? There's a way that I operate and function, a way that I'm neurologically and psychologically wired because of experiences. And so when that becomes a foundation, well, it got you there. That same pathway can get you to the next place. So what I do is I step in and go, all right, what's the dream, the vision? What is it going to be? And I go, okay, who do we need to be to do that? And then I go, great, let's create a very specific experience that's curated. It's architected specifically for that outcome to two things: achieve the goal and become the person who achieves the goal. So when I put
Mhm.
it together, we guide people through a 90-day window that's very specifically designed to hit in all areas of 10 areas we found that are the most critical for your growth and your transformation. And when people walk out of the back end, they have a different sense of self. They emerge,
Mm.
I call it, and they have that dominator's identity that is a mentality of, I've done too much work in the dark to lose in the light. I'm going to get this. I'm going to achieve that. I'm going to fix my marriage, get in better shape. And usually they've accomplished something that gives them proof of that. Because the other piece of it is most people lack the confidence because they lack the proof of self for having done that. So what you're really doing is creating the proof for yourself to step on and go, no, I can create more. I can do more. It's what I did as a kid. I had no
Yeah.
reason to think I'd be great at football, but I just went out and created the proof. Every rep, every day, every catch, every tackle, every touchdown, where eventually it had this momentum that couldn't stop, and it still hasn't.
Yeah. Wow. And it's the, what you're doing is so important because, and for people, if you don't know this, life is always a cycle. You have ups and downs and ups and downs, and even successful entrepreneurs, 9 out of 10 times, they always experience a downturn. Not just a downturn, but I would call it a significant downturn where they are at the edge of bankruptcy or whatever it is. And so they need to now find their way back. How do we get back up there?
Yeah.
So it's so important. Anthony, I do also want to talk a little bit about Awe Shift. What can listeners expect? What goes on in your Awe Shift
Yeah.
podcast?
So the Shift podcast, so the identity shift work, they give you a framing of it. The goal is an identity shift. The vehicle is a dark work experience to get there. So
Okay.
that's like if you think about bottom of the hill, top. If we're at the bottom of the hill, I want to get to the top of the hill. The vehicle I take is a dark work experience to get up to that point of having this different or shift of an identity. Now, Shift podcast becomes this conversation about people who have gone through that journey. I want to look at the moments that are Shift awesome or Shift sucky, find out what lessons that they garnered and how they applied them to get the success they have. So it's a
Mm,
podcast where I'm unpacking people's lives and I want to know what you did and what took place and what was the pivot, what was like the catalyst moment that something changed. And when I can find that out, usually gives other people a perspective they didn't have before. I believe perspective precedes enlightenment. That moment of
mm,
like, oh,
yeah.
now I see, right? Just a perspective change. If you get a little bit of a
Right.
different angle on the viewpoint, your mindset changes and everything opens up sometimes. So the podcast is a exercise in finding people's moments that they may not have know exist or have glossed over that are the reason they were able to become who they are now.
Mm. Vlad, I'll
You
pass
know,
it over to you.
yeah. I love your statement. People say change is hard, but true and authentic transformation isn't hard. It's painful. So, could you please elaborate on
Mhm.
this?
Yeah, yeah. So you think about the things you have to experience. So hard is something we can all face, right? But there's pain in enduring the journey. Right. I can have something be hard and difficult and people can fight hard, but pain is like, it's basically the thing that'll make people shut down as a threshold they have.
Mm,
They won't take more. And there is pain in experiencing exiting a friend group to elevate your friend group, if I want to go to a new level of humans, there's pain of emotion of like guilt and sorrow and shame, but that's a pain you have to endure. There's the pain of enduring, meaning you have to face something every single day. When I was told my gym business, he's like, here's how you start that ABC list. Get 200 people in your phone, and I want you to call them and tell them, hey, my business is struggling. I need help. Now, for me, keep in mind, I'm a 25-year-old former NFL athlete with a massive ego. The last thing I want to do is tell anybody I need help. And I don't want to call people and ask for help,
Yeah.
but that's what I had to do. There was pain. The first call, I wanted to throw up. Second call, it didn't go away. It took like 20 calls until I got to a groove of it. But it was enduring. I had to keep on doing it. And I had a lot of no's and I had a lot of, but what are you doing? Like I had a lot of that weird, but I had to keep on doing it. That was his goal. But I
Yeah.
endured the pain. And as I endured the pain, I got results. I got better. And the pain became pleasure. I actually enjoy sharing it with people and what I used to do and what I do now because of what I got to see as the return of my investment and doing the painful things. That's why true transformation, quite literally, is like it's like you're killing off. It's like a mourning of a sense of who you used to be. That person dies, and you become in time this new person. To where when you look at who you used to be, you try to put your mind back in the same headspace, you can't do it. It's like how did I used to think like that?
Yeah.
How did I function? Like, why was I doing that? Like because you've given that part of you up, and now I've become this person, and that journey is painful because that person actually dies off.
And how many times you think you experience pain in your life? Is it
Oh
in
man,
hundreds or in thousands?
thousands, dude. I had pain yesterday. I gave a keynote to a group of people, and I said this thing. You never know the group you're going to be in. I said a dumb joke. I'm not going to repeat it. And it was one of these ones, and I go, oh, I shouldn't have said that. And so I lost sleep last night thinking about it. Like, gosh, and I don't think anybody cares, but I have a standard I uphold for myself, right? I have an integrity level, and when I play with it or I do something that's below like where I want to be, it eats at me, So I have that kind of pain, but I understand how to have that pain. I know what to do with it. I know how to place it. I don't think I'm horrible. I go, that was horrible, but I'm still great. And so, yeah, you constantly do. And it's a matter of, do you understand how to, not just how to endure and navigate it, but do you understand how to use the pain? Because it can be useful if you use it properly. If not, then it sucks and all life sucks and everything's painful. But it's like, no, man, sometimes pain is a thing that allows the pleasure to feel so much more pleasurable. It's the
Exactly.
juxtaposition of the two. You need them.
Yeah, at the end of every interview, we ask our guests who is the strongest or most inspiring person in their life, and what lessons have you learned from them. But I guess in your case, this is gonna be your adoptive mother, I guess. So,
Awesome, yeah, for sure. She's
what
awesome, man.
what was a monumental source of strength and inspiration that she gave it to you? What would you say is the most significant lesson you learned from her?
I think it was just the pure lesson of unconditional love. That she didn't have to love me. She didn't have to put up with me. And I was a crazy little kid. Like I was breaking lamps, getting fights at school, stealing stuff. Like I was klepto for no reason. I was a nightmare of a child, but she loved me. Like she unconditionally loved me. And when you have that focus on humanity, I can walk into any situation. Even when people are like, I had a guy today on the way back from the airport cut me off twice. I was pissed. I'm not gonna lie, but then my mind immediately goes to, "God, what kind of day is he probably having to do that to somebody? God, it sucks to be him. Like if only he knew that, like if he wanted to sit down and talk, I'd have a conversation and help him get through it. But I can have that kind of unconditional love and empathy. So now the energy of me that I might be in that funky place and bring it to the podcast 'cause I had a bad day, right? That dissipates. I can live life in more joy because I believe the world's a mirror to you. And if you mirror that out, if you send it out, it just comes right back to you. And so for me, I've learned that having this unconditional love for people allows me to be in a more peaceful place, manage my life better, and create in a better way moving forwards.
I think your kids are very sorry. I think your kids are very lucky having you because you have this lesson of unconditional love, and I guess you're transferring it to them as well. You love them unconditionally, and I guess you're teaching them as well same techniques, correct?
100%, man. That's my legacy. It's not the stuff we do here, not the books I write. Like my legacy are the people that come from me, which is my kids.
I had a very similar situation to you yesterday when I was driving, actually, and I love that mentality, which I think it's so important for people to have, is just be more empathetic, show more love. I had the same exact thing. I was driving. There was a ton of traffic ahead of me. There was a truck, and behind me there was a driver, and he just kept honking for no reason. And I'm looking back in the rearview mirror, and I was, getting so frustrated. Like, man, why are you honking at me? Like, I can't
Yeah.
move. There's a and I was this close, like, to doing something that I would regret heavily, because that's not who I am. And then I did exactly what I highly recommend other people to do. I'm like, hey, man, we don't know what's going on in his life. Maybe he has an emergency. Maybe he's trying to get, as
Yeah.
soon, you don't know. So if I take action, it's just going to piss him off. It could make him in a worse mood. So I
Yeah.
don't like to assume something. Hey, maybe there's something going on. Hey, man, totally fine. That's it. I think it's very important. I think we can all use a little bit more about that, because everyone has struggles.
Yeah.
And 99% of the times we don't know what somebody else is experiencing. So it doesn't really take that much energy to show more love, more empathy, just be more understanding, and be the bigger person, right? Just, hey, man, I don't know what they're going through. It's fine. Let
Yeah.
me
Moving
go
on.
ahead and show my exactly.
Yeah. That's all you can do, man. I mean, you can try to battle it, but then you're just fighting a situation that you have no. Because this thing is also, you can't make them understand. And in fact, when
Right.
people are in emotional states, their intelligence is fairly low. They're not processing
Yeah.
the same manner.
But that's
So even
very
if you
hard
dig
to
your
learn
heart,
also how to be empathetic. I mean, is there any like
yeah,
steps or guidance how to be empathetic, or life
you
should should shut you
yeah.
down before you become one? Or I don't know.
No, no. I mean, here's the thing. I am not a pacifist by any means. So I'll make sure that's clear. Like
Yeah. Right.
I'm a former NFL linebacker. I have the ability to protect my family in me, right? So it's a choice to be there. And I choose in the moments because I believe no moment has a meaning but the meaning I place upon it. So the goal is to have enough of these situations take place where you pause, you find a way just to pause for a moment before you go into your tirade. And so in the beginning, it's not easy. In the beginning, you get mad and you go, God, you said you weren't going to get mad, Ant. Okay, next time, don't get mad. Do it again. You get mad again. I told you you're not going to. You do it again 5 times. Why are you doing that? Eventually, 6th time, you go, all right, hey, good job, man. You control. You took a breath. You paused. You still got mad, but you paused for a second. Next time in the pause, logically think and process. So you start logically thinking and you process, and little by little you get better. And it may take you 25 different times before you get it, but the effort to get it's the big piece. Can you find a way to give yourself that the trigger in your brain when that happens? The other trigger comes up and goes, "Hey, pause!" And you go, "Okay, I'm listening to you now. I finally see it." And then that one becomes that. Okay, now we're gonna make a little bit of a change, a little bit of a change, different outcome. And here's what's cool: the more you do it, the better you start to feel. Now your brain goes, "I like that feeling. I like the feeling of after I'm mad, I'm not super mad. I like that feeling. Let's get there again. What does it look like to get there? Oh, that's the process. Let's do that again next time." And you develop this new pattern of how you do stuff. But is a very intentional pattern that takes time to get put in place.
Anthony, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and insight today. You have an amazing journey. If you are looking to make a shift happen in your life or business through Anthony's coaching programs, you have to check out Anthony on his website at anthonytrucks.com. Be sure to check out his podcast, Awe Shift. Anthony, your story is so powerful and moving. Thank you for doing what you do, and you are undoubtedly the right person to make shift happen for other people.
Thank you.